All right. Well, hello, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well and everybody is safe and happy and uh, all is well here on a rather rainy afternoon here in South Boston. I'm sure it's raining everywhere, I think. But tonight we have Kelly Desclos Estes. And she's going to talk about her book and her writing, and she'll actually do a reading for us. So I'm going to hit mute and you can take it away.
Okay. This is my very first book. It's self-published. I was inspired by my two cats. They are very fun and enjoyable to watch play. And while they were playing one day, this idea popped into my head to create a children's book. And I sketched something out in 10 minutes and shared it with my writers group. They loved it. They said, "Oh, you can make a kid's book out of this." Yet, knowing it would be a children's book, the number one thing I had to be concerned about was illustrations. So that became my focus. And it turned out to be it was as if all the stars aligned all at one time. Another member of my writers group had a niece, or has a niece, I should say, that lives in California. She is an art teacher. And so through this lady, I got hooked up with her niece. We chatted and started to check each other out, basically. She actually has a side business where she paints pet portraits. I couldn't think of anything more fitting than for someone to illustrate a children's book about cats than someone who does pet portraits. So last summer, we hit the ground running. We called and emailed and sent pictures and sketches and photographs back and forth until she had what she needed to go through with the illustrations. She sent me updates as they came along. She sent me original drawings once they were finished. By Thanksgiving, she sent me a message that took me back. It said, "I think I'm done." So that meant it was time for me to get busy on the self-publishing. So long story short, there were formatting issues. There was the publishing, the copyright, all of that information to have to get straight. I did publish through Amazon with their Kindle Direct Publishing division. And by January, I thought I would be ready. And just like anything else, everything gets pushed back. Anytime I thought I was ready, something else came up. And so things got pushed back. However, by President's Day, the book came out. So I was a very happy camper at that point. And then the COVID virus hit, and all of the book signings and school visits and things that I had planned, of course, have not happened. So that left me with the challenge and the opportunity to go at it through a more social media version. And so just like everything else that's new, this is a learning curve. I'm learning what to do, what not to do, what works, what doesn't work. I am not proud. I will take advice and take suggestions from anybody that has been through this before. I've had quite a few folks tell me that they enjoy the book. I've had some kids that have read it. I did a test, so to speak, with some children, and they seem to enjoy it. And quite a few grandparents have gotten it for their kids. The other piece of this book is that it's also very close to my heart for two reasons. First, all of my cats, I've had cats since I was probably 3 years old at some point, and they've all been rescues. They've all been adopted. They've all been left by the side of the road. They've been found in the garbage trash, near the garbage trash dump, even under a bush at the house. So all of them are rescues, and the cats in this, featured in this book, this guy right here, is a rescue. He was the one that was under the bush. And it's also dedicated to my son. My son loved animals. He was on the autism spectrum. One of the things that kids with autism really seem to gravitate to are animals. And while he was with us, he did a lot of volunteer work with a couple of different nonprofits. He wanted his own cat at the age of 7, so we had him work for it, and we got a cat who had been dumped on the side of the road right around Thanksgiving. So he was 4 or 5 months old. And he is also featured in this book. So part of the proceeds for the sale of this book go to an animal rescue organization. So it's more than just a book. This is my heart in paperback, so to speak.
Well, you talked about cats, and I'll say we got one of the best dogs we ever had showed up on our house at Thanksgiving, and so we didn't go with a Thanksgiving theme named. But you talk about cats. How many cats do you have? We'll just ask that. That's always a fun leading question that can end up
Okay.
somewhere.
All right. Well, when we arrived here in South Boston, we had 3. And then we found one that made 4. And then 2 of them have since died. And so now we have the 2, and they're the 2 that are featured in the book.
Okay. And I guess now probably really would be the best time to say, why don't you go ahead and read it, and then we can talk a little bit more too about your process if you want to afterwards, or we could talk more about. Oh, well, I guess another good question would be, you said it goes to some part of it goes to some charities. What are those charities?
Well, I haven't singled out one particular one because I want to be able to kind of share the wealth.
Sure.
There's one in particular. It's called Alley Cat Allies that I've spoken with. There are a couple of local humane societies, things of that nature.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, go ahead. Let's go ahead and read. We'll sit back and listen and enjoy, and then we'll catch you on the flip side with some questions.
Okay. Should I hold it up?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to.
Okay.
And we can see the illustrations, or you can read. And I have no real strong preference as far as I've learned how to do both as far as children's readings. So go for it.
Okay. I've done this, but it takes a little while with the glare and things. So here's the title.
Understand.
Yeah, here's the title. It's Cats with a Box. And the illustrations are by Morgan Knuckles. And as you can see, beautiful, beautiful artwork. And we have acknowledgments, and we have all of that type of thing. Here's a picture of my son, Richie, when he was about 9, 10, with our cat, James. And I love this picture because it looks like James has a smile on his face. He's just, he just feels so good being on Richie's lap. Okay, so when you leave out an open box, leave out an open box, a cat will jump inside. Walking in a circle, do it this way. Walking in a circle, he sniffs the corners and crinkles the brown paper. He likes how the paper feels and kneads it. The cat stretches and kneads the paper until it is flat. Little sound effects. Then the cat lays down to take a nap. Suddenly, the cat hears a noise. He slowly opens one eye and sits up. There's another cat walking by. Time to have some fun. Staying crouched inside the box, the cat waits for just the right time. In a flash, the cat springs out from the box. He jumps on the back of the other cat. It's a surprise attack. The two cats tumble and wrestle on the floor. They stare and hiss at one another. Then the cats chase each other across the room. They go one way, turn around, and then go back the other way. The cats make a galloping sound, like they're horses. To take a rest, one cat squirms behind the couch. Thinking that she has her playmate trapped, the cat creeps closer to the couch from under the table. With one pounce, she's got him. She has him. But where is he? Where did he go? Where did the other cat go? He jumped back in the box. He quietly walks in a circle. He sniffs the corners and crinkles the brown paper. He slowly stretches and kneads the paper. And when the paper is flat, the cat lays down and takes a nap. The end.
Well, that was great. That was I'd actually read it, but you do so much better than what I could have done. Of course, I guess the author usually tends to do things much better than the person. So you said you mentioned that your cats were the inspiration. How long was that? All just like one afternoon, or was that over the course of the time? How much of that? I mean, how much of that is you kind of putting your feelings
Things
into the
together.
cats? Yeah, or like, because I've talked to authors who've written. I've never talked to a children's book author. How did you go about formulating that story?
Well, it, like I said, it happened very quickly, because you know the area, because of where we live, a lot of things are, we get a lot of things shipped in. So we get a lot of our pet supplies coming in big boxes. So we just happened to have an order, and it was either the cat litter or the dry food, something. And we always leave the boxes out just because the cats always like to play in the boxes. So one day I was, Max is, who is the ginger, the orange cat, uh, jumped in the box. And then Christy, who is the black and white cat, came over and started marking the corners. And Max was watching Christy, and then he hijacked her, and they did exactly what was in the book. And they do that all the time. And while I watched this, I had this idea, based on that very famous book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, how it has the steps. If you give the mouse a cookie, then he's going to want a napkin, then he's going to want a straw, then he's going to want this, and this, and how it kind of circles back around. So that's kind of what I did with this. I always watched my cats, and they always do the same thing. When they get in the box, they like to crinkle the paper, they flatten it out, they sniff it, they sleep. And so that was the basis, so that I had the front and the back, because it was going to cycle. So it was just a matter of filling in the inside. And as I said, it took me 10 minutes.
Wow. I had to make sure I unmuted myself. 10 minutes. That is a quick, that's a quick writing process. I've talked to people who say that it can take them, weeks and weeks and weeks. But that is a fast writing process.
Well, yeah, the writing process was fast. The formatting and the publishing and all that other stuff, that's a whole other ballgame.
Well, okay, so you bring up publishing, and you talked about the difficulties, because I know one of the last times I saw you in person, you were asking about the program that it takes, that you had to put your book into to get it to format and all that stuff.
Correct.
What are some of the, we'll flip this into publishing just a little bit. What are some of the challenges to self-publishing that you maybe wouldn't have had to deal with if you were publishing with a publisher? And then on the flip side, what are some of the benefits to self-publishing where you would, what are some benefits and costs and to the
Okay.
self-publishing?
Okay. First, if I had a publisher, I probably wouldn't have had to do any of this stuff. They would have just, if it were Random House or one of those big publishing agencies, they have people that do that. Of course, you have to be accepted, and then what comes into play is the contract, the royalties, and things of that nature. With it being a publishing house, the majority of the money would probably go to the publishing house. Whereas if you self-publish, yes, you do have to pay for all of this yourself. And there are some challenges with that. It's not just, oh, I'm going to write a book and that be it. There's each step, there was something else that was needed. For example, to register with the U.S. Copyright Office, first you have to have an employer ID number through the IRS. So you had to have one before you do the other. And then there was this application that you have to do with the copyright, and that all sorts of those kind of things that a publisher or a Patsy Cornwell or Dave Baldacci or someone like that really doesn't have to be concerned about. They just churn out the books, and they accept it, and they do the marketing, they do the sales, they do the layout of the cover, they do all that. So with self-publishing, it's on me. The nice part is that the money comes to me. It also, since I have the publishing rights to this, there are some things that happen when you order books online. If a publishing house has, what's the word? Maybe I should put it in terms of the online sales. If the online sales aren't doing very well, then Amazon or someone else, they can just kind of take your book off the shelf, so to speak. Whereas if you're self-published and you have your own rights to the book, you can keep it up there. I would pick one of the hardest books to try to format for my first book. I've always been a glutton for punishment. There are different standard sizes for the pages, and there are things that you have to think about when you're publishing a children's book, especially with illustrations, that you normally don't have to do with a standard novel, which is a lot of words and the same shape, the same margins usually. With the children's book, there were issues about the spine. I don't want to get too this part of the book right here. If you have so many pages, then they can't print on the spine because it's not thick enough. There are spaces with the inlay, this part and this part, and just a lot of really nitpicky type of aspects to look at. And I think the time that I was about to pull out my hair was when I would send my information to KDP, and I thought it was all ready, and then it would come back with red marks all over it. It looked like my 12th grade English papers with red ink all over it, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. And because I put in the standard size, it said 8x8 would be a standard size for a children's book with heavy illustrations. I designed this for a preschool, early reader age, so pictures were really what's going to what people are going to pay attention to with the book. So I ended up asking for help again. KDP has a customer service division, and the folks there were really helpful. The guy went over with me. He said, well, it is 8x8, but it's 8 by 8.15 by 8 by 8.06. So when I'm talking highly detailed, minuscule, nitpicky things, that's what we're kind of talking about. So when he got it all fixed up and everything else was fine, you could read the text inside the pictures, and everything was centered, and everything was clear and all of that. Then it was ready to go. So then when you're self-published, you basically order your own books, and you sell your own books, you market your own books. You can access, there are a lot of different companies out there that can help with coming up with illustrations or coming up with different formats. So there's a lot out there. There are a lot of people that do self-publish, and it's probably more of the norm, but I'm not sure how many of us will be on the bestseller list. I know I probably won't be, but that's okay. The point is that, I want people to learn about cats and learn that if you are thinking about adopting a cat, hey, they're fun. And by all means, leave out the box because it's going to be a blast. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. There we go. Oh shucks. Hang on just a second. Let me go mute for just a second. Oh,
Sure.
okay. That's the fun part about phone calls too. They come right when you don't need them.
Oh, of course.
Well, I think I have successfully unmuted people, everybody. So if they wanted to ask some questions, you're more than welcome. We'll open it up. And I believe make sure if you do want to ask a question that you've unmuted yourself as well. But we'll open it up and see what you guys. Your writers group seems to be well represented here. So they may not have any questions. They may know all the details of the inner workings of all this, but we'll open it up and see.
Actually, they could probably tell you a little bit more about the self-publishing bumps in the road than I
Bumps
could.
in the road. Well, it seems like though, we talked with John Theo about, because he is
Yes.
he's got some books that are self-published and some books that are, and he said that he really liked that freedom to do that.
Yes.
That it's like, okay, if it's um, rather than them just taking it away from you, the process of taking it away from you, um, they you get to do it yourself, and you get to determine, okay, I want to use this font on the cover, I want to use this on here. And so it does give you that freedom, and it does give you that,
Right.
it's almost like it's a second piece of art. It's not just listening to a pretty symphony, you get the artwork as well, or
Right. Exactly.
two
Exactly.
extra pieces that you don't normally get. Of course, that also, I'm sure, is a frustration as well. Um, let's see.
Well, like I said, if a lot of us that write, I'll speak for myself. The reason that I write is because I can't do math. Otherwise, I would be an engineer or an accountant or something like that. And the formatting issues and things of that nature probably wouldn't have been such a big deal. But like I said, I think one of the things that my writers group has really helped with is that we've all gone through this learning curve, and we've all gone through this bump in the road, and we've all related to, oh yeah, I remember when I couldn't get that last line to fit on the bottom of the page because it would have created another page, and I wanted. We've all been through that, so it makes it a lot easier when there are folks that have been through the same thing that you have, and can kind of talk you through it and keep you going. And
Yeah.
that's good.
Well, let me ask you this question too. Your subject matter lends itself to kids' books,
Yeah.
but it lends itself to that not lower, but that earlier, younger reading level.
Right.
Have you ever thought about making your next jump be something for more mature readers, or would you stay? I guess the better question would be too is, are you going to do another one? And then if you do another one, where are you headed as far as reading level, all that fun stuff?
Yeah. Good question. I've got things swirling in my head. I have, and I shared this with a couple of folks in the writers group. I have this idea for a younger kid. It's like a bedtime story type of thing for someone younger. And then I have shared a story, an incident that happened with Max, to a lot of people, and people just do not believe it. They cannot believe it. And so I thought that would lend itself to a chapter book, because there are definite sections. I mean, it wouldn't be a maybe third grade level, somewhere in there, third, fourth grade, third, fifth grade level. I'm also working on Bible studies. I have one that's set up for adults, and I would also like to make a teen version of that same Bible study. And I have done written devotions and things of that nature. So I have done things on a more adult level. Good question.
So we should be looking for a Tolkien-esque.
No,
No, nothing like that. Okay.
no.
I think I have reread those. Well, not reread them. I'm reading the last one now, and I just think, man, like, how could you do that? And then to get it published, of course, you're apples to oranges here with getting a children's book with illustrations. But golly, that could only have been a major headache to have gotten something like that, and then to have it accepted. You said that folks are accepting it well, and it's been pretty popular. Have you seen maybe hopefully an uptick now that we've got coronavirus going on with your books and people needing books and things like that?
Well, that's a good question, and I wish I had a good answer for you. Because when this corona stuff hit, as I explained, as we talked before, we had issues with my father. And so when my father was with us and we were having to deal with his illness, everything got kind of pushed to the backside. So now that he's in a place that's where he's getting the care he needs and he's safe, I'm kind of having to get rolling again. So that's kind of where that is.
Well, that's completely fair. I think a lot of folks had put a lot of things on hold. Uh,
Yes.
Even just a friend of mine and I were talking the other day saying, well, this thing was supposed to have been 15 days and then we were going to be done. So, but it's completely understandable. And I can imagine right now buying books online is hugely important. And folks are doing it. Well, let me ask you one final question. You said you've got some other things. Would you recommend this process to someone else? And we'll close with that question.
Well, it would depend. Would I recommend your first book to be a children's book with lots of illustrations, and unless you were up for the challenge of going through minute details and measurements and things like that, just know what you're getting into. Yeah, I'm looking at the names of the folks on my writers group that are here, and most of them have self-published. They've had good experiences. They have had some issues formatting and things of that nature, but I think in the long run that would be their preferred method, and I will probably do it again. I don't know if I will go to this length again. Maybe, don't know. I'll have to check with Morgan. Maybe we can do a dog book since she has a dog.
Oh, okay. Well, that'd be cool. Yeah, there. You could do the. You guys could do. You could intertwine your stories. Maybe one day her dog gets introduced to your cats, and
Oh,
you could.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be at least in fiction. In
Yes.
fiction, that'd be great.
Here's her bio. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah.
Uh, but she's painting her dog. Her dog is named Huck, and he's a moose.
Hmm.
He's a hound. I can't think of what other mix. He's a hound. He's
Part bear.
very tall. He's big.
Uh-huh.
He's a big boy.
Well, that would be cool. I would look forward to that, to seeing what you guys could come up with. Well,
Hey, Kelly, I have a question. This is Hope. How are you?
I hope.
Congratulations. um, I wanted to ask if you all may have already answered this question, but when did you begin your book? I know that so much work has gone into it over the months. And when did you begin? How long did the entire process take?
Okay, I scribbled out the idea in June 2019. Got connected with the illustrator before July 4th, and it was fast forward published February 2020.
Okay. So that's not bad to me. I'm not there yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
You're getting there, and you've got all of your own photographs too, so that it
Yeah.
will be stunning, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great build. Well, congratulations on yours going forward.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
well, I have a question now in thinking about this. So you are part of a writers group. How influential has that been? And then the other question would be is how, it seems like every author I've ever talked to, especially of children's books, they do almost all of them are a part of a writers group. I, I think I know the answer would be what were the benefits, but what are the benefits of being in a writers group?
Okay. I do belong to a couple of Facebook groups that are specific for children's authors, independent children's authors. There are a number of different ones. There's hundreds of them actually. But I singled out, I can't handle all of those. So I picked three groups. And what I like about it is very much like what I said before, is that there are folks, especially the independent writers, that are more inclined to give you suggestions, do critiques, give you honest feedback, hook you up with someone, refer you to someone, than someone else. It's a great networking opportunity. It's also good, again, like I said, so you can hear what other people have gone through. And, there are a lot of folks in these children's writers groups. They've been doing it for a long time. And so I'm a little kid on the totem pole compared to quite a few of them. And some of them have been very helpful with, hey, you should try this, or like you had mentioned about the YouTube. Oh, read your book and put it on a YouTube channel, and this and this and this, and just all different types of ways to market, and different avenues and different selling points. So it's all good.
Kelly,
Hey,
hi.
Kelly,
This is Mary.
Mary Moss is on the call, who is a
Yeah, I
member
just
of
chimed
that. You think
in.
that was her about that very question was awesome that you brought it up. Was it Christopher?
Yeah, it's Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mary,
Kelly
you
and
there?
I have been in. Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Hello.
Hey, there you
Hello,
are.
Mary.
Oh, okay. Good. Whew. Technology, right?
Right.
Kelly and I go way back as friends, but also as writers, and have kind of been moral support for each other for a long time. And she's currently in a group with Hope, and I are also in it. Natalie, who's on, are in the group, and it's just been a joy to watch Kelly grow as a writer and now as a published author, and get a little experience under her belt. So we're really happy to have her as part of our writers group.
Thank you, Mary.
It's been really good working with you. I think that coming together, as I know that Christopher asked about how that has benefited you, coming together and getting ideas and being able to share them, and then the growth, seeing everybody start at certain points and then level up. I'm still a baby in the group.
Me too.
But I'm always learning, always growing. Shakita's been a blessing to all of us as well. And the encouragement and the strength to build upon. And sometimes we have to stand on each other's shoulders for a moment. And it's always a friendly atmosphere to help you grow and know that you're connected. You can get a question answered when you need it. And it's not, there's no, how do you say, when you have people that are
Hidden agenda.
struggling to get to the top, so it's like a crab pot mentality. We don't have that. We really do have a connectedness, Christ at the center of our hearts, and we help each other grow, so it's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Right. I guess that's what I was thinking about, is that I've been a part of social groups that there seemed to be, that underlying agenda. What's in it for me? What can I get from this person? And if they can't help, they can't help me, then I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to do anything for them. Whereas with some of these other, the independent authors groups or the children's groups, there's a lot of support, and there's some that are illustrators, and they will post 4 different drawings, and they will take a poll and say, okay, which one do you like better? And 50 people go 3, 2, 3, 4, and so it's just open that way. Whereas if it were a publishing house, getting back to what you said, Chris, they have illustrators. So they get the title of the book and they do an illustration, and they'll probably send it to the author to say, how do you like it? But they're not going to make any drastic changes. They're going to go with what's going to sell the book.
Mm.
Well, okay, that I have definitely learned a lot as far as the children's books, and it does definitely seem like it's a very communal, what's the crowdsourced. That's another term
Yeah.
that is used pretty frequently, is crowdsourced and very
Yes.
wide open. Well, listen, we appreciate you reading this for us, and we thank everybody for coming. It's great that you've got a writers group that is so supportive. You're right in that just the sheer number of folks that are here definitely shows that it's a very egalitarian. And as far as I've understood, you've got some folks here that wouldn't have gotten to join us if we had done this in person. So, hey, maybe there's some silver linings there as well.
That's true. That's true.
But we'll go ahead and end the recording. But thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll post this to the folks that were struggling to get in. We're going to post everything on our social media. You can find us from the Halifax County, South Boston Public Libraries. Kelly's going to put this, I'm sure, on her website, which is kellydees.com. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
That's
off
correct.
on the chat there? Okay, so everybody, I apologize for not getting everybody in. They were not letting me know that I had folks waiting to get in. But we'll publish this on our social media, and Kelly will as well. So thanks again for everybody. I'm going to hit the stop button, and we'll be done. Let's see.